It is another beautiful evening down here on the beach. Really nice. There's not a lot of wind, and as you can probably hear in the background, the waves are just rolling up pretty gently up against the rocks and the sand here. Just beautiful.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a website, a domain or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace.
So I've come down to a little bay just north of Ocean Reef, and it's quite a nice little bay that I do enjoy coming down to. So I haven't brought my bigger cameras with me. Instead, I've brought my iPhone because I want to try out some long exposure seascapes just using my iPhone. So I'm going to explore a little bit more here and find a composition. I'll get set up and then I'll talk you through what I'm trying to do and hopefully give you some tips on how you could use your iPhone for landscapes. Before I do that though, I'm going to take the advantage of there being such little amount of wind around, see if I can get the drone up and give you another perspective, see how gorgeous this place is, maybe even get a photo or two. One of the great things about using an iPhone is that it's nice and light, so you can actually use pretty much any tripod. I'm using my normal landscape tripod because I don't have much else to use, but really you don't need this. This is probably overkill. A much lighter tripod, easy to carry around, will do. So all you need is something that'll keep the iPhone stable. So to mount the iPhone to the tripod, I'm using this little clamp here. It's called a Glif. I'll put a link in the description below. So to mount the Glif, I've used this old plate. It's an arca-swiss plate that's compatible with my tripod. So once I've screwed it in, it just slips into the plate nice and easily. So I found myself a little spot. It's not too exciting, but it'll do for now. I've got the iPhone pretty much pointed straight out to the horizon, and the sun is going to set in around about 10 minutes, but I'm still a little bit worried that we're not going to get too much colour because the cloud has started coming in. We've had a high level of cloud cover pretty much all day, and there's just a small little slit just above the horizon that there's an outside chance that maybe a little bit of colour, but who knows? I'll be able to tell you in about 10 minutes. So as you can see, I've got the iPhone here on the Glif. It's mounted to the tripod and it's ready to go. It's pretty much picking up some patterns in the rocks in front of me, and the waves as they come crashing in create this foam that as the water drains back out, it creates those lines, and I'm using that as a leading line into my scene. With a bit of luck, on top of that we might get a little bit of colour on the bottom of the clouds, and that'll just really make the image look quite nice. So normally on an iPhone your lens is around about, I think it's a 21, maybe 23mm equivalent, and so what I've got to attach to the front of my iPhone is I've got a couple of lenses from Moment. They do absolutely stunning lenses. I love them. They're nice weight, the quality is fantastic, and the images that you can get are amazing. So the one that I've got here is the 18mm. Comes with a little cap. There's a little M logo on the front here, and that's the lens there. Beautiful little lens, and it mounts to the iPhone using the Moment case, which I've actually already got on the iPhone. So just let me mount this now. I'm recording the screen, so you should be able to see the difference that happens when I put the lens on. Whoops. So that's it there, and it makes quite a lot of difference. As you can see, it really zooms the image out. I'm getting a lot better image. You can see more of the rocks. I might readjust the composition, just making sure that my horizon is absolutely dead flat. And of course now all the waves have disappeared, but you can pretty much guarantee that another cycle will come through soon. So this is a new app that I'm actually using. It's called, keep on forgetting. So the app that I'm using is called Spectre, and it's a new app that has just been released, I think just a couple of months ago. It's a really simple app to use. You can actually use it handheld. It's got some magic stabilisation in it, but I still like the idea of mounting whatever I'm going to use on a tripod. It allows me to slow down, take my time, I'm able to relax and just make sure that everything is right, my composition is right. I can make sure that the timing of when I take the shot is correct as well. So I just prefer to have it on a tripod. So pretty much the way that this app works is in the top right hand corner I can move a little dial here that goes from 9 seconds down to 3 seconds. So I can move it up to 9 and down to 3. I'm going to leave it at 3 because I don't want the exposure to be too long. I want to capture the lines and the patterns in the waves and the foam. I don't want it to be all milky and muddy like that. So I'm trying to go for a little bit of detail in the foreground. Other than that, there's not a lot more that I really need to do. There's some settings here, but as you can see, the options that I've got here is to capture a live photo or to turn that off. I'm just going to leave that for now. The other advantage, of course, is if my scene is very, very light in the sky and then dark in the foreground, I can actually take 2 shots. You do have the ability of pressing on the screen and then dragging up or dragging down. So I might drag up and take a shot there, like we will now, for the foreground. So I'm going to wait for that to just drain out. So I'm going to take that shot there. It takes 3 seconds, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wind it down. So I'm taking the exposure down a little bit, so I'm not blowing out any of my highlights, and I'll take a shot there for the sky. There you go, and then might be able to combine those two in Lightroom. The disadvantage with this app is that it doesn't have a setting where it enables you to shoot in RAW. And that's one thing that I would recommend is if you're able to, the iPhones now with the latest couple of years of updates in the operating system allows you to shoot in RAW. So if the app that you are using allows you to shoot in RAW, I'd certainly do that. This one doesn't. So we're going to have to try and get as much as we possibly can right in camera and then just adjust it a little bit. I'm really excited because at the moment, as we speak, the sun is just coming in underneath the clouds. You might be able to see the light and the colour on my face. It is fantastic, which means that we might be able to get some nice light. I think I'm going to have a couple more minutes before the colour should really go off on the bottom of those clouds. So what I'm going to do is quickly move into another location, maybe find another composition and see whether we can get another image. So I've got to a second spot and it's looking pretty good. The sky has been changing quite a bit over the last 2 or 3 minutes. Another wave's just come in. So what I've got here is just a little cluster of rocks just in front of me that's half buried in the sand. Of course, as the water just pushes through, make some beautiful patterns. I do wish that I was able to set the shutter speed at less than 3 seconds. There's just some times where I just want to have a little bit more definition in the water in front of me. So what I'm finding is I'm having to time it quite carefully. So I take the shot now and then the water comes through, so it's able to capture the lines and the patterns of the water and the foam a little bit more distinctly with a bit more detail. The sky is looking fantastic right on the horizon, and so the way in which I've got my composition is so that the foreground and the midground, which is the ocean, is taking up the bottom 2/3, and then I've just got the top third, which is the sky, because it's only the area of the clouds which is close to the horizon which is catching that light. Anything above that's pretty much grey and gloomy, so I'm pretty much cutting that straight out of my composition. So one of the things that I'm noticing in this particular scene is that because I've got quite a large rock on the left hand side, it's quite dark in the foreground. So one of the advantages of having the iPhone mounted to the tripod is that I can actually take multiple shots. So what I can do is I can tap on the screen and I can drag down to bring down the exposure, and I can drag up to bring up the exposure. So what I might do here is I might just bring it up so that this time I'm taking a shot for the foreground. As you can see now, I've got plenty of light there. I'll be able to pick out some details in the rocks and the shadows. Here comes a wave now. It's not too big, which is pretty nice. I'll take the shot. Lovely. There's another wave here, so we'll just might wait for that one as well. I'll take 2 shots for the foreground. And there's another one. So we'll wait again and we'll just see what we get with this one. And I can pick the best foreground out of the 3 shots that I take. There it is there. Nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag down and bring down the exposure. So now I'm just looking at the sky, and you can see how intense that colour is. It really is quite striking. And now I'm going to take a shot for the sky. Of course, I'm not going to use the foreground, so I don't have to worry about waiting for a wave to come in or anything like that. So what I'm doing with this mozzies, just before the light and that gorgeous colour completely disappears, I'm trying to just get one more shot. And for this shot, I've got the phone in portrait mode here. It's allowing me to get really, really close to some rocks in the foreground, and then, excuse me, really good wave coming through, and I'm being eaten by mozzies. So the waves have just picked up. I've got 2 tripods I'm trying to just control here. Some very nice colour. So I've turned the iPhone around so it's in portrait mode. It allows me to get some rocks in the foreground. I've got this little cove here framed nicely with some rocks in the midground, and I'm still getting the last remaining colour on the clouds in the background. So hopefully this is actually going to turn out quite nicely. So if that image turns out, I'll pop it up in a sec. So I hope you found those tips helpful, and hopefully this video has shown you that you can take some really nice images with your iPhone, and with a bit of help with an app. In this case I used Spectre, a lens from Moment Lenses, and the mount from Glif. I popped it on my tripod and I was able to get some long exposure style images just with my iPhone.
Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. It doesn't matter whether you shoot with an iPhone, a mirrorless or a DSLR camera professionally or just for fun. I've always found it helpful with the creative process in having a website where I can share with the world the latest images I've captured. For the last 5 years, I've used Squarespace to build my websites for a few different reasons. It's quick to get a website up and running, their templates look fantastic, and I can customize each template easily to get the look and feel that I'm after. So by taking the hassle out of the website, I can just focus on the content I want to share. You can start your free month trial at squarespace.com, which will give you heaps of time to get set up with your website. And then after the trial, if you want to go ahead with your website, make sure you go to squarespace.com/Andrew Marr or use the offer code Andrew Marr to get 10% off your first purchase.
So before the mozzies completely carry me away here, I'm going to pack up and go home. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time guys, thanks very much for watching.